From MTN News, you're watching Montana This Morning.
The British COVID-19 variant that is sweeping through some states is now in Gallatin County. Coming up, how it was found, who it has affected, and what state and county health officials are advising.
I'm Mike Dennison in Helena. So, how did that first half of the 2021 legislature go? Coming up, we'll take a look.
March 4th, you are watching Montana This Morning, and the big discussion here all morning long has been the beautiful, beautiful day we had yesterday and the hope for more of that to come.
We do have
Matt,
more of
bring
that.
us more hope.
We do have more of that to come. It's hard to get used to. I used to judge my days on how long, what time the sun is setting and whatever. It doesn't even matter when it's 50 degrees.
I went to the bank yesterday, made a deposit, rolled down the window, of course, to hand it in through the window, and just left the window down for the rest of the time I was driving around.
It's weird. Your instincts are to put on your gloves and, put on your scarf, and I find myself shedding. Okay, but it's cold in here, Chet.
Space heaters.
Okay.
Still. We have a ways to go to spring, Matt.
We do.
There's strength in silence.
Temperatures this morning into the teens and 20s. I'm not judging her. If she needs 15 of them, that's great.
Whatever gets me through the show, right, Matt?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Look at that sunrise. Mainly clear conditions. We do have a thin veil of clouds trying to work their way through our skies. Temperatures into the 50s for the afternoon. Windows up, windows down, doesn't matter. It's going to be a beautiful afternoon. We're going to talk more about what you can expect in upcoming days in just a few minutes.
Space heater on, space heater off. Going to be a beautiful day. All right. Well, here ahead in news, Montana health officials are now confirming the first known cases of a variant of the COVID-19 virus in the state. Yeah, according to the Department of Public Health and Human Services, 3 tests in Gallatin County showed signs of the United Kingdom or UK variant of the virus. Now, this variant first showed up in the United States back in December. Montana now the 46th state to report cases of it. All of the Gallatin County cases occurred in younger people, and all of them have now recovered.
I think the good news right now is that the UK variant has been around a little while. We know a little bit more about it. It does not look like it causes more severe illness. There is some evidence that it might be slightly more contagious or transmissible. But we also have pretty good evidence that the vaccine addresses this variant fairly well.
Thank you, Jim. DPHHS again encourages people to wear a mask, practice social distancing, wash your hands regularly. More information about the COVID-19 variants can be found on the state's COVID-19 dashboard. Gallatin City County Health Officer Matt Kelly said in a statement, "We are aware that the specimens are from Gallatin County, and we are working with the state health department to investigate the source and timing of those specimens." Well, in other statewide news, Montana's 2021 legislature has hit its midway point as lawmakers take a several-day break before returning to Helena next week to start the session's second half. Before they left the Capitol, top legislative leaders spoke with MTN chief political reporter Mike Dennison about their take on the action so far. And as Mike also caught up with Republican Governor Greg Gianforte, here's his report.
For majority Republicans and Governor Gianforte, the story of the session so far is their economic agenda, like the new law protecting businesses against lawsuits related to COVID and a package of tax cuts that the GOP is advancing.
That opened the doors of Montana businesses and gave them a little bit more ability to navigate with COVID, where they don't have to worry about lawsuits and so forth, and it allowed the governor to open the state back up.
The tax credits for trade scholarships, business equipment tax reform, our red tape relief efforts. So we're doing what we told the people of Montana we would do.
Minority Democrats see things a bit differently. They point to a rush of Republican bills on non-economic issues, such as restricting abortion and transgender citizens or making it harder to vote.
It is a surprise to me that most of the bills that we've seen from the Republicans have really been about, taking away these rights and freedoms.
Most of the abortion bills are headed to Gianforte's desk, and he intends to sign them.
I am pro-life. I think life is precious and it should be protected.
When asked if these types of bills might make Montana less attractive to luring businesses or young professionals to the state, the governor simply said no. Blaisdell says while the social issue bills have garnered plenty of attention, Republicans are also passing under-the-radar bills to make it easier to do business in Montana. And Democrats say they can point to some victories too, despite their minority status, such as bills still alive to protect data privacy and telemedicine, and the death of several bills that would have undermined organized labor. But everyone agrees that a big unfinished issue for the second half of the session will be ironing out the implementation of recreational marijuana in Montana, as approved by voters last November. The governor says his administration is working on a bill that will be ready soon and has some changes in how to spend the marijuana tax revenue.
I put forward a proposal which is to redirect a portion of the revenue for substance abuse counseling, addiction recovery. There will still be a component directed towards conservation, but I think addiction's got to be a priority.
In the second half of the session, lawmakers also must craft the state budget and authorize the spending of hundreds of millions of dollars of federal COVID relief money. So, plenty of things to do when they return here next week. At the Capitol, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Quick programming note, by the way, on MTN's Face the State this coming Sunday, you can watch Mike Dennison's full interviews with Governor Greg Gianforte and the top legislative leaders in the Montana House.
The Department of Defense Inspector General has released a harsh review of alleged conduct by Texas Congressman Ronnie Jackson during his time as a Rear Admiral serving as the top White House physician. Now, allegations against Jackson include alcohol-related misconduct, misuse of Ambien for personal use, and sexual comments about a female subordinate. Jackson was a significant talking point in Montana politics, following Democratic Senator John Tester raising concerns during Jackson's nomination as VA Secretary. Now, as a member of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, Senator Tester expressed concerns about what he had heard from current and former military members. Tester wanted the allegations investigated. That challenge brought the ire of former President Donald Trump and many Montana Republicans, and a barrage of political ads attacking Tester for his stance.
I hope folks take a look at this IG report and think back to the way things were. I don't necessarily feel vindicated. What I do feel is what we did was right. And we were doing our job as a United States Senator on the checks and balances for noms that come through and doing the advise and consent that we're required to do by the Constitution.
By the way, Congressman Jackson has denied the allegations, calling the IG's report a political attack.
Yellowstone National Park was the second most visited park in the United States in 2020. That hasn't happened in 74 years.
Now, MTN's John Shearer reports on how the pandemic put some of the most popular parks on the sidelines.
Montana was popular during the pandemic, and that may have helped push Yellowstone into a spot on the popular parks list it has not occupied since 1947. Though it ranked second, the park did so with fewer visitors than in 2019. The reason that could push it so high on the list is that visitation at all national parks dropped by 28%, with some of the most popular parks, like Yosemite in California, suffering the most. But some things never change, and that applies to the most popular park of all, the Great Smoky Mountains National Park on the North Carolina-Tennessee border had more than 12 million visitors. That's more than 3 times as many as second-ranked Yellowstone. Another perennial favorite is Zion in Utah, which rose 1 place to 3rd on the list this year. 4th is also a regular on the list, Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado, which fell from 3rd in 2019. 5th in 2020 is Grand Teton. Even though visitation was down in Grand Teton this past year, it was still the 4th best year in the park's history. Grand Canyon held the 2nd most visited spot in the national park system for 30 years, but it dropped to 6th in 2020. A real surprise at 7th on the list is Cuyahoga Valley National Park in Ohio. It was the most popular year ever for that park, which is in easy day trip distance from Pittsburgh, Columbus, and Cleveland. Acadia National Park in Maine dropped from 7th place in 2019 to 8th in 2020. Olympic National Park in Washington didn't budge. It remains 9th on the list, just where it came in the year before. Rounding out the top 10 list was Joshua Tree National Park in California. It displaced Glacier National Park, which dropped off the top 10 list for 2020. John Shearer, MTN News.
John also reminds us Yellowstone National Park climbed high on the most visited parks list in 2020, in spite of being closed for 2 months due to the pandemic. It's important to note in that as well.
Wow.
Still
That's cool.
It's still my favorite place.
Several of those I visited, lots still on my bucket list.
There's a
but-
few on there that I have not been to as well that I want to see. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
I told you, Great Smoky Mountains. You gotta go.
And that's one I have not been to.
Yeah.
So a lot of other people have, but I haven't been there yet.
Wow.
More to follow.
You've got a long life ahead of you, Chet.
I hope so.
Well, coming up here, would you ditch your glasses for eye drops?
Yes.
Coming up after the break, learn about a new drug that claims to do just that.
But first, let's check in with our friend Gail King to see what's coming up at 7 o'clock.
Good morning to you. Ahead on CBS this morning, the U.S. Capitol is on high alert after new threats from domestic extremists. What we're learning about the potential dangers there. Plus, hear from one of the most recognizable people charged in the deadly attack on January 6th. There you recognize him. Also reaching out to the most vulnerable Americans left behind in the vaccination effort, how a visiting nurse program is trying to reach homebound people who have not yet been vaccinated. And Meghan Markle speaks out as she faces claims that she bullied staff in the royal household, how she says the royals perpetuate falsehoods against her and Prince Harry. We'll see you 7 o'clock on the dot.